western bay, and it serves 100 ships a day. Lonely sailors pass the time away and talk about their homes. And there's a girl in this harbor town, and she works laying whiskey down. They say, Brandy, fetch another round. She serves them whiskey and wine. The sailors say, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. Such a fine girl. Yeah, your eyes could steal a sailor from the sea. Brandy wears a braided chain made of finest silver from the north of Spain. A locket that bears the name of a man that Brandy loved. He came on a summer's day, bringing gifts from far away, but he made it clear he couldn't stay. No harbor was his home. The sailor said, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. Such a fine but my life, my love, and my lady is the sea. Yeah, Brandy used to watch his eyes when he told his sailor story. She could feel the ocean fall and rise. She saw its raging glory. But he had always told the truth. Lord, he was an honest man. And Brandy does her best to understand. At night, when the bars close down, Brandy walks through a silent town and loves a man who's not around. She still can hear him say, she hears him say, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. Such a fine but my life, my love, and my lady is the sea. Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. Such a fine but my life, my love, and my lady is the sea.
This is Ice-T and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and
we're on a mission to get America to switch to cold water washing with Tide.
it saves you energy.
And that saves you up to $150 a year on your energy bill.
Plus, Tide cleans better in cold than the bargain brand in hot. So what are you waiting for?
Turn to cold because Stone Cold said so.
Turn to cold with Tide.
Energy savings based on average when switching from hot to cold and non-HE machines. Performance based on Tide Power Pods versus leading baking soda packs.
Here's a not-so-fun fact. It's a flexible platform that connects with all the tools your team already works with. Everything is in one place so you can focus on the work that matters. Join top companies like Uber and Hulu that rely on Monday.com to manage their work. Go to Monday.com and start your free trial today.
Whether you're an everything has its place or an everything all over the place kind of organizer, Dropbox is the easy way to keep your digital life as organized as your real life. Because when you need to find something on a Monday evening, you shouldn't have to be searching until Tuesday to find it. Recover deleted files within 30 days, so you never have to fear losing anything. And you can share everything through a single link, from small work docs to long vacation videos. Dropbox, for everything worth organizing. Visit dropbox.com/thingsworthsaving.
We come into this world unknown, but know that we are not alone. They try to knock us down, but change is coming. It's our time now.
Hey, everybody loses it. Everybody wants to throw it all away sometimes. And hey, yeah, I know what you're going through. nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us.
Hey, this is not a funeral. It's a revolution after all. Your tears have turned to rage. Just wait. Everything will be okay. Even when you're feeling like you're going down in flames. Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom.
We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. They can't do nothing to you, they can't do nothing to me. This is the life that we choose, this is the life that we lead. So throw your fists in the air, come out if you dare. Tonight we're gonna change forever. Everybody loses it.
Everybody wants to throw it all away sometimes.
Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us.
It's UUCC Zoom In Live with special guest Joy Partain. Here's your host, David Cantor.
Well, hi, everybody. Good to be with you this evening on this, the penultimate episode of UUCC Zoom In Live. How's that for a fancy word for me? Penultimate, huh? So after tonight, only one more show left for us to do before we're going to close the curtain on UUCC Zoom In Live. So as we said, we had a blockbuster last couple of shows for you before the final one. And we did a couple of weeks ago with Reverend Randy Partain. And if one Partain isn't enough for you, we got a double dose of Partains with a special guest tonight of Joy Partain. So I want to give a special thanks from the get-go to our my producer, Carol Gay, who is pinch hitting, even though I guess we're going to be back in 3 minutes. We'll be pinch hitting tonight for Liz Cantor, because Liz Cantor has school start today. No, she's not going to school. You know, she's a high school math teacher. And so she actually had a class today to do. And so she was zonked tonight. And we kind of predicted that might be the case. And so Carol agreed to pinch hit for her. So thank you so much, Carol, for being with us this evening. You know, just one last thing before we move on right now. So my wife, Mariella, and I were out at our lake house. Many of you know we have a home on the Vermilion Huron border. And so we're leaving the house to go out for dinner yesterday. And Mary Ellen says, "What is that?" And what that is on the light by our front door, there is literally a hornet's nest, literally like this big, real, not making this up, a full-size, stereotypical, classic hornet's nest with a zillion hornets flying around it. And so that got our attention. Our next door neighbor, who's there routinely, didn't say a word to us about it. And so, yes, you might recall a couple of weeks ago when I mentioned we had gotten back from visiting Liz in Houston. She had a few little hornet's nests there that I zapped for her. And clearly that was just practice, because those were little minor league ones. And this was the great grandpa of hornet's nests. And so we bought a bunch of stuff to zap those guys also. And there are now a zillion dead hornets around my home. And theoretically, in the next couple of days, we can knock it down so it will go bye-bye and not be there anymore. But it was a pretty spooky thing for us there. Quick reminder, please use the chat function at the bottom of your Zoom screen to announce yourself. Make sure you send it to everybody and not just the panelists, because your fellow congregants do want to know that you are here. And as we say to you every time, if you've been with us before, thank you for coming back. This is your first time with us. We're glad you're here. And we're sorry that we're not going to have a whole bunch more shows for you. As we mentioned before, one more show after tonight. And it's going to be quite a send-off. So please tell your UUCC friends, because the more is the merrier. And another reminder, if you missed a past show, I want to check it out. There are some episodes up on the UUCC YouTube channel. There are some episodes being held up because we're bad people and use music without permission. So we need to edit those songs out before they can go on the YouTube site. Eventually we'll get around to getting the rest of the episodes up there as well. As you know, we've established the Jack Ullman comedy moment, where we hear some jokes from Jack. And of course, Jack's jokes are the one guaranteed moment of levity on the show. So everybody, please welcome Jack Ullman. Jack.
Good evening, David. Pleasure to be with you again. Since you'll be interviewing a musician, I've selected appropriate humor for the evening. Let's start with a couple of rock hall jokes. What's the difference between a violin and a fiddle? Who cares?
Jack?
Neither one of them's a guitar.
Oh,
What do Pink Floyd and Dale Earnhardt have in common? Their last big hit was The Wall. Since Joy is a serious student of music, I have to ask, why couldn't Mozart find his teacher? Because he was hiding.
Oh,
Finally, a local Catholic parish had just hired a new associate pastor. The whole congregation showed up to meet him and hear him preach. He steps out on the altar and sings out, "I am the associate pastor of this church. I make $5,000 a year. It's not enough." And he walks off the altar. The congregation is stunned. They quiet down as the venerable pastor steps up to the altar. A much revered man. He'd been with the church for decades. He sings out, "I am the pastor of this church. I make $10,000 a year. It also is not enough." The congregation is stunned. He walks off. A labor problem with their clergy. Suddenly, the sounds of the organ fill the church, and a voice is heard. "I am the music director of this church. I make $50,000 a year. There's no business like show business, like no business at all." Well, that's it for the second to last installment of Jack's jokes. I'm expecting a call from Mike Carney as he heard my beautiful voice. Back to our host.
Thanks, Jack. Hey, well, you probably don't know this, but Jack will not be joining us in person for our final episode, since he's going to be having some surgery right around that time. So, it's kind of funny because aside from me, Jack has actively participated in more episodes of the show than anybody else. And his participation, of course, has been a highlight of the show. You might recall we did a survey of viewership a bunch of months back, and Jack's jokes were clearly a highlight of the show overall. So everybody, how about a special round of applause for Jack? So a couple of weeks ago, we got one version of the Partain family story from Reverend Randy Partain. And you know, no one's saying that Randy did anything but share the truth as he knows it. But of course, we all know that there are at least two sides to every story. So our special guest tonight, with some additional Partain stories, is Joy Partain, recently relocated here from Houston, Texas. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm UUCC welcome to Joy Partain.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Joy, thanks for being had. We're glad that you're with us this evening. How are you doing this evening?
Great. Absolutely loving the cooler weather here. Could be a little bit cooler, but the weather last weekend was absolutely gorgeous. We went to the Kite Festival. It was marvelous. And I thought, oh, yeah, this is what we moved here for.
So I hear rumors that to get ready for Cleveland's winters, you took a trip to Iceland before you moved here. How'd that go?
Well, actually, it was our second trip to Iceland. We have gone in the winter. We went a couple years ago. Randy really wanted to see the Northern Lights at some point in his life. So we went in the winter. The Northern Lights weren't that impressive, but everything else there was. It was gorgeous. Tons of frozen waterfalls and mountains and valleys. And I mean, ice, just unbelievable. And then we decided to go back for, let's see, a couple months ago, in between when y'all appointed him and when we moved here. We said, let's throw in a little more stress and take a major vacation. So we went to Iceland, and in the summer it is just as gorgeous, but very, very different, so verdant, so green. And we saw some of those same waterfalls, which weren't frozen in blocks of ice, but were these huge gushing gorges of water. It was absolutely gorgeous. And of course, cooler than what we're used to for the summer. But somebody did give us a huge down blanket before we moved here. Randy brought it home and it was like this big. And I was like, what is that in this case thing? He's like, we're supposed to put it on our bed when we moved to Cleveland. So we should be warm enough, at least at night.
So I remember when I went to Iceland with Mary Ellen a couple of years back, we're riding along that ring road, right? And you see, of course, you see a bunch of cattle farms, and you see a whole bunch of horse farms also. And I said to Mary Ellen, you know, I didn't realize there's so many horseback riders in Iceland. And Mary Ellen looks at me and says, no, David, those horses are not for riding, they're for eating. I went, oh,
I didn't realize that either.
I feel better now.
We did learn while we were there that Icelandic horses are the envy of Europe. So they are traded out for studding a lot, but if they leave the island, they are not allowed to come back, because Iceland is very particular about the gene pool on the island. And if you bring a pet there, if you move there, it can only be a cat or a dog. They don't want anything else. No iguanas, no gerbils, hamsters, and it's quarantined for 6 or 8 weeks. So they are very serious about what comes onto the island.
So if you go back there again and decide to move there, your pet camel has to go elsewhere, huh?
That's very true. Yes.
So how's your move going? We heard from Randy a couple of weeks ago that you were actually in your home. How are things playing out? Everything all set up?
Sure. Everything's set up. Sure. As I look around, many fewer boxes than when we got here. There's a few boxes in every room, but we're getting through them. Every Tuesday is when University Heights puts out their garbage and recycling. We've had a huge stack of boxes the last 2 weeks. We will have another huge pile tomorrow. I'm sure the garbage guys just absolutely love us.
I was gonna say they must really love you. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And I feel terrible we're killing this many trees, but you know, I'm happy to give anybody the bubble wrap or the boxes that they'd like.
So you visited here a couple of times before the move. So now that you're living here, what's your second impression of Cleveland?
Not that the people weren't nice the first time, but I'm really impressed with how nice our neighbors are. Yesterday, there was a block party for the end of the summer, which I found very amusing because in Houston, it's summer for at least 6 more weeks. as it is in South Florida where I grew up, but this is the end of the summer. And there was, barbecue, and we brought a pie, and there was an ambulance and a fire truck so the kids could climb in and out of it. And people were just really very nice and asked what they could do to help. And they kept calling this the fireman's house. Apparently a fireman lived here 2 owners ago and did quite a lot of work on the house. Some of the work that was what appealed to me about living here. So my second impression is, and that it's a very drivable city. The traffic in Houston, as your daughter knows, is horrendous. And here in like 15 minutes, I'm anywhere. I'm at the furthest place I would want to go within 15 minutes. And there's a Target literally 2 blocks from us.
That's heaven, right? I mean,
yes, it is, especially for somebody moving in that needs a gazillion things. We've already been to the lake. We were at Edgewater Park last weekend, like I said, for the Kite Festival. So I feel like, okay, I kind of know the city, not every nook and cranny, but it doesn't feel as spread out and unnavigable as a, sprawling city like Houston did.
Yeah. So let's share with the group a little bit of your personal history. So you mentioned you're from South Florida, whereabouts?
I grew up in Deerfield Beach, which is about half an hour north of Fort Lauderdale.
Got it. Okay. And what was your family structure like growing up?
I'm the older of 2 siblings. I have a younger brother. He's 4 years younger than me. My parents are both living. I'm actually a Cincinnati native, although I don't really remember Cincy. My parents are both from Cincinnati. We moved to Florida when I was 4. So most of my memories are from summer vacations coming back every year. So very green memories, not snowy memories. My brother played violin. I played flute and sang. I was in speech and debate, band, chorus, theater, lots of performing, speaking things. As an extrovert, you can imagine I was always at the front of the line for those.
So you grew up I lived in Cincinnati for a couple of years as a grown-up, and it's 2 years that in general, I'd more prefer to forget rather than remember, but I do remember 2 things. So you don't say y'all at all, do you?
I don't. I lived in Houston long enough to feel like a Houstonian, but not a Texan.
And I also remember that in Houston, people say please all the time when everywhere else people say, huh? But in Cincinnati, they say please, but you left too soon to get that habit either, I assume.
Okay. Well, I think please is polite.
Yes, it might be. But after you listen to it for a couple of weeks, you might have a different orientation about that word, please. So from all your growing up years, what's the biggest lesson you learned as you were growing up?
I would say looking back that you don't actually have to perform or measure up to have worth on the planet. My childhood was kind of performance-based, works-based, and what I really love about UUism is that first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of everybody, that we just have value because of who we are, period, not how we measure up, not how much we earn, not how good we are at things, we just have it. And I love that. That wasn't part of the very conservative upbringing that I had. So it's something I really embrace, that everybody has things special about them and everybody matters.
So what are your favorite memories from your growing up years?
Marching band in high school, which was hot as hell. Those very heavy woolen uniforms that they probably have up here that make sense for up here, but don't make sense for there. Being on the beach, although I have to say I didn't really appreciate it until I was
a marching band uniform.
Pardon me?
Were you in your marching band uniform at the beach?
No,
okay.
But there were parades and they were hot as heck. And band started in July, which is gross down there. Yeah. Loved being on the beach, still love being on the beach. Grew up less than 10 minutes from it. Yeah. Really didn't appreciate that though till I left. You know, you're a kid, you think everybody's got a beach, right?
Yeah.
then eventually moved to Houston, and everybody said, oh, you have to go visit Galveston, and cut to the end. Galveston is not a real beach. I was very excited to see that Lake Erie it's Lake Erie, right? That's the Great Lake.
That's the Great Lake. Yeah.
Okay. It has tides, it has waves, which was very antithetical to me, that it's a lake, but it looks like an ocean.
The Great Lake.
Yes, yes. And people were sunbathing last weekend and selling, hot dogs, just like at a beach. So I'm very excited, since everywhere here seems to be 15 minutes away. I'm very excited to live only 15 minutes from a beach.
So here's your Great Lakes story. So a bunch of years back, maybe a decade ago, I mentioned earlier on that I have a house, a beach house right on Lake Erie.
Okay.
So we have a bunch of my family out from the East Coast, and these people are all mega New York centric people, of course, right? So there's two oceans and not a whole lot else in the world. And then New York's view of the world is truly what these people all think about.
New York is the cultural center of the universe.
After all.
Yes.
And so my middle sister is out here with her husband, may he rest in peace now. And we're out there, we all get set up, and Jim says, I'll be gone for a little while. I'm going to take a walk around the lake. And we all go, bye, see ya. And he goes, walks for a half hour, and then he comes back and says, you weren't going to tell me, were you? We all said, well, Mary Ellen and I both said, well, you have that New York as view of the world, and this is still a Great Lake. Yeah, you probably would have gotten stopped at the Canadian border if you ever got there, but that would have been weeks from now, and Susan would have been long gone without you. Yeah, that's
it did cause some intellectual dissonance for me the first time I saw it, that I can't see the other side, but you're telling me it's not an ocean. Okay, where I'm from, if you can't see the other side, it's an ocean.
I mean, an ocean, yeah, unless it's a Great Lake. Yeah.
Yep.
So tell us about school.
I was in gifted classes. I was, at the front of the class to perform. It makes sense that I ended up in PR for a living. I sang at every Easter service at like 4 a.m. that I can remember, on, sunrise service on the Fort Lauderdale beach. I loved English, loved history, didn't really care for math and science, the stereotype, oh, girls aren't good at that. I think I was good at it, just didn't like it very much. I still find myself saying I'm spatially relationship challenged, which probably isn't the truth, but is a hard stereotype to dispel once you've bought into it. I love school though. I love learning. It's one of the things that I really love about PR is that you have to learn a lot about the topic you're pitching. Whether, my intro to PR was in classical music, and even though that's what my degree is in, I still had to keep studying, keep learning, no more than the reporters that I was dealing with, so that I could pitch adequately. And every other subject that I've pitched and worked with reporters on, you have to know your stuff. So I love that, learning, digging deeper. I wish I knew a second language better than I do. I know a smattering of 4 languages because you take Italian, German, and French as a singer in college. And I knew a bit of Spanish from high school. Nice mug, nice self on the mug. That's a nod to the Hulu show Staged, I think, with David Tennant and Michael Sheen from the pandemic of the last year. You need to see that if you haven't yet. So I really love learning. And actually, when Randy went through seminary, there was a lot that we debated because I really love getting into that and tussling with topics and pushing at them from all sides.
So Randy told us on the last show how you've been in college through the music program. Mm-hmm. So we know about that. How about you tell us about your first date? That's a pretty evil laugh.
Well, I'm not sure it was a date, but it was the first time that we kissed. We were very poor in college. We did not have a car. So we would walk to Taco Bell, that glorious date destination.
High quality food, lots for your $5.
Yep. Yeah, it was $5. We could both get out of there for less than 10. And he kissed me one night and I slapped him because
Slapped him.
I did. I didn't see it coming. I was offended. And
Did you want him to kiss you?
I think I did. I just was under the impression that I shouldn't have, or I don't know. I was just shocked. But yes, after our first kiss, he got a royal slap across the face, just like, you know, the movies. So the people in Taco Bell got, you know, treated to, we were outside walking back, but they got treated to quite a show.
So did that end the date? Or the time together?
Well, no, we had to walk back to campus. It was like half a mile. I wasn't mad. I told him I enjoyed it. I'm sure we kissed again. I just was shocked and felt
Well,
like
I would hope you have.
said, I mean, in today's era, you know, you definitely would ask before that. But it was a good kiss, and yes, it has continued. And we are just the right height for each other.
So what do you do on date nights now? When you're ready to have a date night, what do you guys do now?
Right now we're unpacking tons of
Okay, we are not unpacking. Okay, fine.
We play a lot of games. We go to escape rooms with friends or by ourselves. We have a ton of board games. There are some that are very difficult that we like playing alone because the rules are just really complex and it takes forever to explain them to other people. We make a lot of music together. We did that a lot during the pandemic. It's one of the ways we got through the pandemic was, okay, we can't go out, we can't see our friends, we can't go to the movies, we can't, you know, this and that, but we still have a piano. And so we played and sang a lot of music, and it was very sustaining. I really felt for friends that didn't have hobbies that they could do at home, that needed to go somewhere for their hobby, because it was just a balm for my soul that there was a piano. And I'm not a great pianist by any stretch of the imagination. You know, I'm married to a piano major. I barely squeaked through piano proficiency in college. Every music major has to pass a piano proficiency test before you can stop taking piano lessons. So I'm not good, but it was wonderful to have an instrument in the house, a really good one. I have my grandma's, may she rest in peace, her baby grand, which I'm very grateful for. We used to have a junkie upright, and when she passed away, the baby grand went to my mom. And after a few years of me visiting her in Cincinnati and noticing there were dust on the keys, you know, I dropped a few hints. She didn't pick those up. I finally was more overt and said, you know, this was in my house. It get played every day, and not just by me, but by your professional pianist son-in-law. So it eventually came to us, and we have benefited from it for a few years now.
You know, you talk about barely being able to play the piano. I recall in my younger days, I could barely play the radio. So yeah, I think you're a few steps ahead of me.
Nice.
So you mentioned before about having a career in PR. So is that where you started? Is that where you landed? Was that part of a master plan? Tell me about that.
Master plan. Well, as a kid, I wanted to do a lot of different things. Music was always in there. Some days I wanted to be a reporter. Some days I wanted to be an archaeologist because I saw those shows, you know, on PBS where they're brushing the dust off of some beautiful artifact. And what they aren't telling you is, you know, they had to write grants for years to go to the desert, to sweat in the sun for 10 years to find that thing. And then brushing the dust off was like the last moment. There were times that I wanted to be a politician, and I am so glad I didn't. PR wasn't actually in there. When we moved to Houston for Randy to do grad work at Rice, I had just finished my bachelor's and in music, and they don't teach you how to get a job with a music degree. And so there we were in Houston, and I was kind of like, okay, what do I do now? So I got a job at the opera. I just so happened to, you know, luck into living in one of the cities with the best opera companies in the country. Houston Grand Opera has a marvelous, marvelous track record of world premieres. They commission a composer almost every year to create a new work, and they do amazing productions of the old standards. And it's a full-time opera company year round. And so I started actually in development and fundraising, and was terrified of asking for money. So as soon as I could, I moved over to PR because I had taken some career tests that said PR and marketing sounded like selling things, and that sounded creepy, but PR meant writing, and that sounded better. And a good friend at the opera who was in the next cubicle moved from PR into contracts and season planning, essentially. And I moved into PR and realized, oh, this is my calling. Loved working with reporters, loved working with the artists. Really got to, like I said, dig into the art form and needed to know a lot more than I did when I was doing fundraising. Got to go to rehearsals, take the artists to interviews, needed to be at performances, which was great. I was paid to go see shows.
Yeah.
And, you know, a few years into it, I realized, oh, this is the same as fundraising. It's all about relationships. I'm just asking for stories, essentially, instead of asking for money. But it's all about relationships. They need to write something. I need them to write about the show. So, you know, you'd figure out which reporter would rather talk about costumes or the sets or the singers themselves or the historical implications of a show. So, you know, it's matchmaking, just like in development. And then when I moved on to, you know, publicize other things, I went to a PR agency after that. I did corporate philanthropy and PR in a couple companies, was responsible for their community relations, which I absolutely loved, because then I could help the city and, you know, had millions of dollars at my disposal instead of just the Partain checkbook to help the community. And again, would do PR about it. You know, if we gave away $500,000, then I was calling reporters about it to get the company credit for it. So I love the field. I love the relationship building part. I love finding the unknown factors about whatever you're publicizing, whether it's, you know, an art form or a nonprofit, or, you know, the janitor at the company that's never had any press, but it turns out, you know, this is their 20th anniversary year and they happen to work at a dog shelter on the weekends and they have, you know, 5 kids and the youngest went to Harvard. You know, that's a story. Somebody should tell that story. So I love that.
So, you know, next time you think about marketing being creepy, what have you, you should know I started my career as a marketing guy. So I guess it just your stereotypes. It's okay. It's okay. So, what are you doing now and how did you land there?
Well, just about the time of the pandemic, I decided I had been on the corporate side twice and the nonprofit side 3 times, and decided to hang my own shingle, which was a terrible idea at the beginning of a pandemic, but it worked out pretty well because I have so many contacts in Houston, and all of a sudden the social service sector obviously needed a lot of help. Because that's what everybody was doing. The arts went dormant, sadly. Tons of my friends lost their jobs or were put on hiatus or furlough and were bored out of their gourds and scared. And the social services sector was ramping up, getting all kinds of money thrown at them to help people, and needed a lot of PR help to tell people what are the options for you, what are the funds out there, what can you apply for. So for the last 1.5 years, I've done a lot of PR work with the major charities in Houston, dispersing the COVID relief money on behalf of the city, the county, the state, working with reporters on stories about what clients need to know to apply, and finding clients that have been helped that are willing to be, you know, featured on TV to put a human face on COVID. Because a lot of people think, oh, it's over, right? Or that the people that need help should just get a job. And, you know, there are a lot of industries, sectors that haven't come back to the extent they were before. So a lot of people who aren't fully employed, or, you know, had to be at home teaching their kids at the beginning, or who have had COVID in themselves, whether the industry has been impacted or their own health. I talked to a lady today who's benefited from the rental relief fund, and I put her on TV a couple times. She's wonderfully charismatic. She has a daughter. They're very cute, very telegenic. And the mom has had COVID twice.
Oh,
she just got it a second time. So did the daughter. Yeah. There's no way to work with that. I mean, her immune system is shot. She actually moved to Houston to get cancer treatment and the pandemic struck. So, I mean, there's just a lot of people suffering. So I'm really grateful that social services welcomed me, with open arms. And I'm doing a lot of that long distance because, it worked for a year and a half by Zoom and phone. Why should it be any different now? In fact, a couple of my clients were thrilled I didn't want to cut them off when I told them we were moving here, which was great because no, of course I didn't want to cut them off. I do want to establish some clients here after all the boxes are unpacked, and I, figure out where the nice work clothes are and my business cards. But right now I'm really excited to still get to do that work. I also have a mental health client, and I feel very strongly about the importance of mental health. I have an education client. So it's not my background at all. Performing arts hasn't popped up on my client list at all because of obvious reasons. There aren't many performances right now, but I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing, and it can be done long distance, and I'm grateful for that. That's one of the upsides of the pandemic, which I never thought I'd say. It's brought so much suffering, but it has presented a great career opportunity for me.
So let's get a little bit lighter for a minute here, and let's do the Colbert lightning round.
Okay.
Those of you who've been on the show before, you know that I call it the Colbert lightning round because I first found it on a Stephen Colbert late night show, and he did it with some big time stars. And of course, so we brought it to our show with our big time stars. And so I've got a bunch of questions for you, and it's a lightning round. So first thoughts, let's go for it. And so I did lie to you because there are a couple of things I'm going to ask you that we did ask Randy also, but some of these are different. So, okay, ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. What's the best sandwich?
Roast beef and Swiss.
What's your favorite action movie?
Ooh, action movie. Pass.
I never heard of that one. Who's the living person you most admire?
Michelle Obama.
Scariest animal?
Oh, shark. Growing up on the beach, I had a fear of sharks.
Apples or oranges?
Oh, oranges. I'm a Florida girl.
What's your favorite smell?
Ooh, nutmeg.
Nutmeg.
Ginger,
nutmeg. Okay. What's the most used app on your phone?
Right now, Waze.
What's the best concert you've ever attended?
Oh, that's a tough one for a musician. Okay, I'm gonna say the best one that I can remember before the pandemic, because I remember the last restaurant I ate at and the last concert. Last concert was a string quartet from Taiwan, and they did native music that they had commissioned for themselves and a Beethoven quartet. And the last piece they did, they went around the room and then they went back up to the stage and played each other's instruments, which I've never seen before. One was bowing on the next one, and that person was bowing on the next, in right with each other. It was amazing.
Okay. Most people just say Nine Inch Nails, but never mind.
I've never gotten the privilege to see Nine Inch Nails live, but I would love to.
So who's the historical figure you most identify with?
John Adams.
And describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
Improv and love, music, humor.
Okay, you made it. So now, when you get up the show tonight, are you and Randy going to compare notes as to who was a better lightning rounder? I'm just curious.
I do remember his sandwich his sandwich answer was very long. Longer than it takes to make a sandwich.
Well, just because he had to describe the exact kind of meat, but never mind.
Ah.
So we left this question towards the end because we really want our audience to get to know you as you and not as the minister's wife. People are going to want to know, is it any different being the partner of a minister than it is having a partner who does something else for a living? And you must have observed to compare notes about this with others over the years. So tell us about that a little bit.
Sure, it's different. His position is in front of a lot of people, just like, a politician. That's a good description. Most people have a different set of expectations for politicians, just as they do for ministers. And they sometimes put them on a pedestal. UUs don't tend to do that as much as some other denominations, which I appreciate because Lord knows he's not perfect.
That's not what he said.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's different. And it's not just because, they work on Sundays. When you're married to a spiritual leader, being mindful of the space and what they are going out in the world to do versus, them leaving for an architect job or lawyering or whatever. And maybe I'm underestimating the what it takes to be a lawyer or an architect, but there is something, and I would say when during the pandemic, especially, there was a lot, well, we're not through it, but during the first few months of the pandemic, there was a lot of pressure on people in spiritual and psychiatric positions to really uplift the people they worked with. And I really respect the emotional fortitude that takes and the wisdom. I was struggling like everybody else at the beginning of the pandemic because I was lonely, the world was unpredictable. I mentioned I'm a huge extrovert, wasn't seeing friends, and he had a whole congregation to, care for, not just his lonely wife who was going out of her gourd because he was the only person she could see. So I really respect the role. And I know that UUs especially don't, I know you're going to ask me this, don't expect a minister's partner, I wasn't going to say wife, partner, to be everywhere that the minister is. But there is an expectation to be, I said, I really admire Michelle Obama. One of the reasons I really admire her is she has carved out her own identity, regardless of what he's doing. And she's incredibly strong, and was more aggressive than he at the beginning of their careers. And I would say I'm definitely the more aggressive person in our relationship, out in the world, more assertive. So yeah, I am not sure that answered the question at all, but I'm going to leave an ellipsis on it and toss back to you.
So you kind of alluded to this. So it's an unfair question, but it probably ought to be asked because people are going to be wondering about this. Should people expect to see you at church never, once in a while, pretty frequently, or all the time?
Not never and not all the time, somewhere in the middle. And I think that that's going to have to be, let's see how it goes. I like being a planner, but man, the last year and a half have certainly taught us that life just needs to be embraced every day. We don't know what's coming around the pike. And I intend to be there occasionally. It is kind of difficult to receive spiritual sustenance from your own partner. So I don't expect to be there as frequently as somebody who, wants to be in church every week because they want to hear from the pastor. Because honestly, I hear the sermon at home most weeks. I'm, the first previewer. I'm the critic. So occasionally I plan to be there for in Gathering Sunday. I'm used to it being called homecoming, in Gathering Sunday and holidays. And we'll see besides that. I don't want the expectation that I'll always be there, but I do intend to be there occasionally. I certainly like the people that I met in June. But I also want to find other places around the city to call my own, where I have an identity and my own sustenance, music places, and yeah.
So what do you enjoy doing when you're not working?
Music, baking, writing, yoga. Yoga really helped me through the pandemic too, to find peace and calm and center my breath every day and come home to myself, because I am a natural worrier, and that helped me put that aside for at least a half an hour every day. I am Randy's sous chef. He is an incredible cook, and I find zen in chopping veggies, or chopping in general. So I really like being the preparer. And we have a fantastic kitchen in this house. So I'm really looking forward to that. And shopping. I love the thrill of the hunt. I am a master shopper. I have already conquered Target, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, and Tuesday Morning to find stuff for the house. And I have already bought 3 winter jackets for $10 each from the Goodwill on Mayfield. One of them was a Columbia, one of them was a Land's End, and I forget what the third was, but everybody's told me Columbia and Land's End are the brands. And, you know, online, they're much more expensive than that. And these were really great jackets. So I'm very proud of those.
Excellent. So just so you know, when you're baking and you're doing cakes and cookies, if you've overbaked, I'll be happy to be a recipient of some of your output. Just so you know,
I'll keep that in
I would
mind.
sacrifice myself that way to basically.
Would you?
help support
Okay.
you in this regard, yeah.
Okay.
So last question for you before we go to break. So if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To fit more hours into every day.
So when we asked one of my co-hosts, Will Barrett, this question, he had a similar kind of answer. He said basically he wanted to be able to slow down time. So that basically what would be a 24-hour day for most people becomes a many, many, many more hour day for him. It was a pretty good answer also, same kind of thing. Okay, gang, we're going to take a quick break right now to get your questions for Joy organized. If you have a question to ask her, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and ask it. Please do not use the chat button. We'll get your questions organized for you for when we return. But first, our mid-show break with the song "This Is Me" by Keisha. See you in a few.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flag, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets hits my skin. Well, fire away, 'cause today I won't let the shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. This is me. This is me. And I know that I deserve your love. 'Cause there's nothing I am worthy of. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be, this is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to be I come. Marching on, marching on. I make no apologies. This is me. Whenever the wind's gone, whenever the wind's gone.
And we're back. So this is Me by Keisha, the American singer-songwriter who has had 2 #1 hit albums on the Billboard Top 200. This song is actually a cover of the actual song from the soundtrack to the movie The Greatest Showman. The version of the movie was sung by Kayla Settle, who played the bearded lady in the movie. Now that version won a Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song. The song was selected by Joy. So Joy, did you see this movie in the movie theater?
Not in the theater, no, on DVD.
Uh-huh. So is that where you first caught the song?
Yes, I love that song. I love that song. And I love Hugh Jackman. He's in that musical. It's the story of P.T. Barnum. And the P.T. Barnum Clown School is actually in Sarasota, where my grandma lived when I was a kid. It's a great song. That's one of my favorites. It comes up on Pandora. If Waze wasn't the top app on my phone, it would be Pandora.
Okay, so you ready to take some questions from the audience?
I am.
Okay, our first question comes from Mary Schatzman. Mary, you're on with Joy.
Yeah, hi, Joy. Welcome here. And I have a double question in a way, because it's got probably a short-term answer and a long-term answer. The question is, what could you use from congregants? Us. What can we, do you guys like to go to dinner? Do you like to be introduced to various things around town? So short-term, long-term, what could you use?
Short-term is probably how to deal with winter, because we have neither of us lived through winters like you guys have. And I've heard some pretty scary stories, but I need practical advice. That was one of the most popular questions during Randy's interviews was, do you like snow, or have you lived through bad snow? And no, neither of us have. So we could use advice on that. When I feel ready, when I feel more settled, I would love some, help navigating the city career-wise, being introduced to people around town, or if there's major events that I need to go to, people at the foundations to meet, I would appreciate that. I had a really great business network in Houston, and that didn't happen overnight. So I know it's going to take some time here. We would love some restaurant recommendations. I don't want to spend all of our disposable income on restaurants. I also want to learn to cook here, but we have a really great kitchen that we want to try out, but there are just so many boxes right now. I'm looking that way because we have a really great kitchen right there, but just a lot. Besides the pie, we haven't done anything in the kitchen yet. Longer term, I would say be okay with what I find is my identity at UUCC. Be welcoming to that, because I don't know exactly what it'll be. Be welcoming to both of us. I don't really want to be a cookie cutter minister's spouse, so that might look different now than in 6 months or 2 years or 5 years.
Okay. Thanks, Mary. Next question comes from Mary Ellen McNulty. Mary Ellen, you're on with Joy.
Hi, Joy.
Hey.
So I have two things. One, the first thing is if you're looking to get rid of your boxes and stuff and you don't want to just give them to the recycle, they're online. There's a free cycle on the east side, and you can tell people that you have boxes that are available. And when I've done that, generally it's been within a day or two. There've been somebody at my door that wants to take them because they're moving.
Great.
And they don't want to buy boxes. Okay,
Great.
so that's the first thing. That's just an aside.
Thank you.
And the reason the Iceland thing came up is because David hadn't noticed that every menu that we went to had horse meat on it. And I said, have you noticed how many menus have horse on it? And he said, oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in addition to Ireland, where else have you traveled to, or where do you want to travel to? Do you guys enjoy traveling?
We do. We both love traveling. I don't think either of us thinks that we have the monopoly on what the world should look like just being in this country. We've been to Ireland together, Italy, Iceland, all places with eyes. Prague. I've been all over the Caribbean. I do love the beach. I would love to go to India, another eye someday. I really fell in love with South Asian culture when I worked at Asian Society in Houston for about 3 years. And it was a bridge organization between East and West, before you ask, you don't look Asian. And the food, the culture, the dancing, the instruments, I fell in love with that part of the world's heritage, and I would love to go see it in person.
Sounds fun.
Chai is actually one of the things I really missed in the first few months of the pandemic, because I was used to getting it every day at work, and then I didn't have it.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Next question from Meg Pawkin. Meg, you are on with Joy.
Hold on, I have to give her access and I can't find the right button. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Where'd Meg go? There. Okay. There you go, Meg. Sorry.
All right. Hey, Joy, how are you?
I'm great. Good to see your face, Meg. Your frozen face, but your face.
Oh, I didn't even know I had an option to have my camera on. I wanted to know, what's your favorite ethnic kind of food? Cleveland is full of those, and I know all sorts of hole-in-the-wall restaurants I can recommend to you.
Besides Indian, I would say Italian.
Oh, that's easy. All right, good to know. Have you found any new favorites since you've moved here?
Not yet. We've been ordering a lot of takeout or curbside to get back, and I mean, we haven't really had like a nice meal out yet because we're unpacking.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. It was fun getting to know you.
Thank you.
So last question's coming from Lori Albright. Lori, what's your question for Joy?
Hi, Joy.
Hey, Lori.
Great to see you again. Oh my goodness. And I just love hearing about how even in the limited time you've had available so far, you are embracing exploring Cleveland and all that it has to offer. But I have a more domestic question.
Sure.
About you enjoying being sous chef to Randy. So aside, I suspect bubble tea is not going to be the answer to this question. What is the, do you have a favorite dish that Randy chose, or a couple maybe?
Yeah, it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, I imagine.
And I appreciate you remembering I really like bubble tea or boba tea. I've already tried 4 places here in the 3 weeks I've been here. He makes a delicious turkey tenderloin that has chipotle peppers in it, and it's paired with sweet potato mash that you sweeten with molasses. So there's a tang to it. It's not really sweet, and the turkey is just delicious. And we learned a secret because those the cans of chipotle, not chipotle, maybe chipotle. You get a can like this, and you're only supposed to use an ounce. So we chop them up and we froze them in ounce little packets. We figured out about a year ago because it just bothered me to throw that much away. I've become a real, dedicated food saver and recycler, and I hate throwing things away. He also makes a really great Yule log. The chocolate looks like a Swiss cake roll thing. He doesn't particularly like the recipe, but I do, and he makes it for me. Scallops. I really love seafood, and he makes really good scallops, although he doesn't like them. And the last couple of times when he made them, I said, "Oh, these are so good. If you don't like these, then you just don't like scallops, because these are incredible."
Oh, that's great. I love watching you talk about the food, because it's clear how much you enjoy it. And I love food too. So thank you and welcome.
Sure, thank you
for being here tonight.
And we had, speaking of things to do in Cleveland, we had pretty good souvlaki at the Greek Festival this weekend.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
So,
thank you.
Joy, thanks so much for taking those questions from the audience. We appreciate all the thoughts you shared with us this evening. So gang, our next show will be the final episode of UUCC Zoom In Live. 3 weeks from today, September 13th, 8 p.m. Claudia was supposed to be saying this, not me, but Claudia is not with us, as you guys have all noted. So our special guest, or as I wrote, not so special, will be none other than your show host, David Cantor.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, kind of, or a little honk of a bicycle horn, to reflect the comfort level I have with the team we have here at UUCC Zoom In Live. I have no idea what's going to happen that night. The producers and co-hosts, Carol Gay, Liz Cantor, Claudia Victoroff, and Will Barrett are planning that show, and I am just showing up, and whatever's going to happen that night is going to happen. So join us as we see how I respond to being on the receiving end of all those obnoxious questions I've asked our guests during the last 25 shows. I am told there'll be a bunch of surprises as well during the episode, so you really won't want to miss this one. Tell your UUCC friends to join us. We're promising to be a really special wrap-up to UUCC Zoom In Live. So, as I said, I think I'm gonna have to show up for that episode. So we're running out of show, gang. So let's give a major league round of applause to Carol Gay, our producer. As I say each show, my co-host and I do the easy stuff. Carol's can make the stuff really happen. So thank you, Carol. And a reminder, if you'd like to catch up with your fellow congregants after the show, just stay right here for a chance to chat with your fellow UUs. Carol will get you squared away following our wrap-up music. Speaking of which, we're going to leave you tonight with a special song I'm dedicating to my wife, Mary Ellen. No, the song is not Danger Zone. It's Everything That Touches You by the Association. I love you, Mary Ellen, and everybody else. I love you all too, but not like I love Mary Ellen. I look forward to seeing you in 3 weeks for the final episode of UUCC Zoom In Live. Say goodnight, Joy.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, honey.
In my most secure moments, I still can't believe I'm spending those moments with you. And the ground I am walking, the air that I breathe, are shared at those moments with you. You love for you, you show the
So I think I promoted everybody to a panelist. You can turn your cameras on. If I haven't, I'm going to go back and hit people a second time. Then you can join us on the screen. Kind of our own little green room here. I don't even see myself. And let me stop recording.